Gilvian here, you might know me. I'm the dragon who loves a good story. This is about Svetlana, the goddess of destruction, but don't let the title fool you. Her heart was purer than a mountain spring, a tale of betrayal, courage, and friendship, a prophecy of destruction and power. Svetlana yearned for peace, not power, for the simple joys of life. But her father, Taras, reveled in the prophecy. He saw it as a path to ultimate power. He trained Svetlana relentlessly, but she resisted. She channeled her energy into creation, shaping mountains and rivers. Her acts of kindness were legendary, but her father saw her compassion as weakness. The stage was set for a confrontation between love and ambition. The God King, fraught with paranoia, ordered her to surrender her power and allow Taras to bind her essence to a staff of unimaginable power. But she refused. She rebelled. Summoning all her power, Svetlana created a massive vortex. The ground split open and a vortex of raw power erupted. It pulsed with an eerie green and purple light, twisting the very fabric of reality. This was no ordinary magic. This was the primal energy of creation itself. Taras, caught off guard, reached out to stop her, but it was too late. Svetlana threw herself into the vortex, her scream ripping across the realm. The vortex swallowed her whole, then slammed shut with a destructive explosion. Silence descended. Taras, his face a mask of rage and disbelief, searched frantically for her, but Svetlana was gone. She had vanished without a trace. The vortex, her desperate gamble, had ripped her from existence along with her power. He had failed, the one thing he truly cared for. His victory felt like ashes in his mouth. He had condemned Svetlana to a fate worse than death. Taras roared out in untamed rage as his clever gambit for power failed. The vortex spat Svetlana out into a realm of pure chaos. Her body was racked with pain, her spirit torn. As she drifted in the void, her essence, her very soul, bonded with a powerful being. Nurbos, the Dragon King. He sensed her plight, her pain, her purity. He saw the potential for good within her. He couldn't bear to see her destroyed, so he did something extraordinary. He split Svetlana's essence, her soul, into two parts. He entrusted each part to two worthy beings. He commanded them to merge, to become one. From this union, Svetlana would be reborn. Oza and Madame Lemore, bound by Nurbos's will, agreed. They knew the risks. They knew the burden they were about to carry, but they also sensed the flicker of hope within Svetlana's fractured soul. With a blinding flash of light, they merged. And from that union, Svetlana emerged, reborn. Not as a goddess, but as a dragon. Her scales shimmered with 1,000 shades of purple. Her eyes glowed with an emerald fire. She was majestic, terrifying, and utterly, heartbreakingly beautiful. Svetlana's journey was far from over, but this was a new beginning. A chance to forge her own destiny, free from her father's control, free from the prophecy that had haunted her since birth. Svetlana awoke in a daze. Her memories were a jumbled mess, flashes of light and pain, the feeling of falling, endlessly falling, and then warmth, comfort. She opened her eyes, expecting to see the cold, unforgiving void. Instead, she saw a face. A kind face framed by a regal appearance. It was King Nurbos, his features etched with wisdom and age. Svetlana tried to speak, but all that came out was a confused growl. She looked down at her body. It wasn't her own, it was long and scaled, covered in shimmering purple and green. Panic surged through her. What had happened to her? Where was she? King Nurbos seemed to sense her fear. He placed a gentle hand on Svetlana's snout. Reborn into a new existence. He answered with a compassionate tone. You were reborn. A dragon? Svetlana struggled to comprehend this. How could she be a creature of destruction, of fire and fury? She had spent her entire life fighting against those very things. She tried to remember what had led her to this point. Her father's betrayal, the God King's demand, the vortex. The memories flooded back, each one a searing pain. She had escaped, but at what cost? She was lost, alone, a prisoner in a body that wasn't her own. Overwhelmed by the stress, Svetlana's vision blurred, and she collapsed. When she awoke, she found herself in a spectral realm. Two ethereal entities approached her. One radiated a calming aura, while the other exuded a fierce presence. Svetlana looked around, bewildered by her new surroundings. The entities began to communicate with her. their voices echoing in her mind. She knew that this was just the beginning of another trial.
Don't be afraid, child. You are not alone. You are among friends.
Friends? Svetlana looked around, her gaze falling upon a magnificent creature perched on a nearby crag. It was a dragon, but unlike any she had ever seen before. Its scales shimmered with 1,000 shades of gold. Her eyes were like molten emeralds. She radiated power, but also a deep sense of peace.
This is Oza. She's the one who found you, adrift in the void.
Oza dipped her head in a silent greeting. Svetlana felt a strange connection to this creature, a sense of familiarity that defied logic.
She couldn't have done it alone. I, Madame Lemore, lent my strength to ensure your survival.
Svetlana remembered the names. Nurbos had spoken of them. These two beings, so different yet united in purpose, had saved her. They had given her a second chance at life. She bowed her head in gratitude, her heart swelling with a mixture of awe and confusion. How could she ever repay them for their kindness? As Svetlana and her mentors ventured deeper into the forest, a sudden chill ran down their spines. They could sense something nearby, lurking in the shadows. Oza's feathers ruffled, and Madame Lemort's eyes narrowed. The air grew thick with anticipation, and every rustle of leaves heightened their senses. Oza raised her hand, signaling for silence. Svetlana's heart pounded in her chest as she strained her senses, trying to detect what had set her companions on edge. A faint rustling echoed through the trees, followed by a low, almost imperceptible hum that seemed to vibrate through the very ground beneath them. "Do you feel that?" Oza whispered, her voice barely audible. Svetlana nodded, her eyes scanning the dense foliage for any sign of movement. The hum grew louder, more insistent, and a strange, otherworldly light began to seep through the gaps in the trees. Madame Lemort stepped forward, her hand glowing with a soft blue energy. "Stay close," she instructed, her voice steady but filled with a sense of urgency. The trio moved cautiously, their steps silent and deliberate, as they followed the source of the disturbance. They emerged into a small glade, bathed in an eerie, ethereal glow. In the center of the clearing stood a stone monolith, covered in ancient runes that pulsed with a strange, rhythmic light. The hum was now a resonant, almost musical tone that seemed to emanate from the very stones themselves. Svetlana felt a shiver run down her spine as she approached the monolith. The runes seemed to call to her, their light growing brighter as she drew nearer. She reached out a tentative hand, her fingers brushing against the cool, smooth surface of the stone. Suddenly, the hum intensified, and a burst of light enveloped the clearing. Svetlana stumbled back, shielding her eyes from the blinding brilliance. When the light faded, she saw that the runes had rearranged themselves, forming a new pattern that glowed with an even greater intensity. "What is this?" Svetlana asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of awe and fear. Oza and Madame Lemort exchanged a glance, their expressions curious. "It's a beacon," Madame Lemort said softly. "A message from the ancients. Someone or something is trying to reach out to us." Svetlana's mind raced with possibilities. Who could be sending this message? And what did it mean for her journey? The sense of suspense and curiosity hung thick in the air as the trio stood before the enigmatic monolith, their hearts filled with questions and a newfound sense of purpose. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They were not alone. Something powerful and mysterious was guiding them to this nearby clearing, and they would need to unravel its secrets if they were to fulfill the prophecy and find their true place in this strange new world. With a final, determined glance at the monolith, Svetlana turned to her mentors. "Let's find out what this means," she said, her voice steady with resolve. Together, they stepped back into the forest, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As Svetlana landed in the clearing, she was greeted by a chorus of gasps and murmurs. Standing before her was a group of individuals as diverse and unusual as any she had ever encountered. There was a young male elder Fea with long blue hair down to the middle of his back, strumming a haunting melody on a lute. A tall, imposing figure with fiery red skin and horns that scraped the sky, their expression a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. A small, nimble creature with the features of a fox, tinkering with a contraption of gears and wires, and at the center of it all, a woman with eyes as deep and ancient as the forest itself. the leader of the group stepped forward and introduced herself as Delmira, the head of the SkyClan. Next to Delmira was a gorgeous blue and yellow dragoness named Davina, the high priestess of the Coven and Delmira's mate. Svetlana felt a strange sense of peace wash over her. These beings, so different from herself, radiated a warmth and acceptance that she had never known before. Perhaps this was the place she was meant to be. Perhaps among these strangers, she could finally find a place to belong. The wise elder asked Svetlana what brought her to their doorstep. Svetlana took a deep breath, ready to share her story, the story of her past, her pain, and her uncertain future. She had found new friends, new mentors, but she knew her journey was far from over. The prophecy still hung over her head, a constant reminder of the darkness that threatened to consume her. The SkyClan, Delmira explained, was more than just a gathering of magical beings. They were a coven, a family, bound together by their shared love of magic, their respect for nature, and their unwavering commitment to protecting the balance of the world. Each member brought their unique talents and perspectives to the group, creating a vibrant tapestry of magic and wisdom. Then there was Orchidea, the lava dragon. His temper was as fiery as the molten rock that flowed through his veins, but beneath his gruff exterior beat a heart of gold. He was a fierce protector of his friends and a formidable opponent in battle. And then there was Tintype, the Kitsuna inventor. His mind was a whirlwind of ideas, his workshop a testament to his boundless creativity. He could build anything from clockwork spiders to flying machines, and his inventions often proved invaluable in times of need. There was Sapphire, the young male elder Fea with long blue hair. His melodies had the power to soothe the savage beast and stir the very soul. He was a Fea, a creature of the deep forests, and his connection to nature ran deep. Davina stood at the edge of the dreamscape, her eyes closed, as she felt the ebb and flow of countless dreams. "In this realm," she began, her voice a soft whisper, "I am the weaver of dreams, the guardian of slumber. Here I can shape the very fabric of reality, bending it to my will." As she spoke, the dreamscape around her shifted, showing visions of fantastical worlds and serene landscapes. "But with great power comes great responsibility," she continued, "for a single misstep can turn a dream into a nightmare." The dreamscape was a realm of infinite possibilities, a place where imagination reigned supreme. Trees made of crystal, rivers of liquid light, and skies painted with the hues of 1,000 sunsets. Davina's presence was a calming force, her magic weaving threads of serenity and wonder through the dreams of those who slumbered. Yet the dreamscape was not without its dangers. Shadows lurked at the edges, waiting for a moment of weakness. Davina knew this all too well. She had seen dreams twisted into nightmares, hopes turned to despair. Her role was not just to create, but to protect, to ensure that the dreams she wove brought comfort and inspiration, not fear and sorrow. As she walked through the ever-changing landscape, Davina reflected on her place within the SkyClan. Her gift was unique, her responsibility immense, but she was not alone. She had found a family in the Coven, a group of beings who understood the weight of their powers and the importance of their mission. In the distance, she saw a figure approaching, a young dragon with a heart full of dreams yet to be realized. Svetlana. Davina smiled, knowing that together they would weave a future filled with hope and magic. Svetlana was immediately drawn to Sapphire. Perhaps it was their shared heritage as creatures of magic, or perhaps it was Sapphire's gentle nature and his ability to find beauty in even the darkest of times. Sapphire, sensing Svetlana's turmoil, took it upon himself to help the young dragon find her place within the Coven.
He would often invite Svetlana to sit with him beneath the ancient trees, the air filled with the scent of pine and earth. Sapphire would play his lute, his melodies weaving tales of love and loss, of triumph and despair.
Through his music, Svetlana began to understand the depths of her own emotions, the pain of her past, and the hope that still flickered within her heart. Sapphire's melodies had a way of unraveling the knots of fear and doubt that clung to Svetlana's soul. He taught Svetlana that vulnerability wasn't weakness, but a source of strength, that sharing one's pain could make it bearable, and that sometimes the most powerful magic was the magic of healing. Orchidea, on the other hand, challenged Svetlana to embrace her strength, saw the raw power that simmered beneath Svetlana's scales, and knew that it needed to be honed, controlled, and unleashed. True strength comes from facing your fears head-on, from pushing beyond your limits, and from never backing down from a fight. Orchidea believed this wholeheartedly, taught Svetlana the art of dragon combat, their training sessions shaking the very foundations of the SkyClan's home. Channel your fury into focused blasts of fire. Use your wings as weapons. Fight with the ferocity of a cornered beast. But Orchidea also taught Svetlana the importance of discipline, of controlling his anger and using it as a source of power, rather than letting it consume him. True strength lies not just in physical might, but also in courage, determination, and the unwavering belief in oneself. Tintype, with his boundless curiosity and infectious enthusiasm, opened Svetlana's eyes to the wonders of invention and the boundless possibilities of magic. He would spend hours in his workshop, surrounded by gears, wires, and strange glowing devices, tinkering and experimenting with an almost childlike glee. Magic is everywhere, Svetlana, from the way a flower blooms to the way the stars move across the night sky. He believed that magic was a force that could be harnessed, manipulated, and used to create amazing things. Combine your innate magical abilities with my inventions, and we can create extraordinary effects. Svetlana, who had always been drawn to the creative aspects of magic, found herself spending more and more time in Tintype's workshop, her mind buzzing with new ideas. Innovation often comes from thinking outside the box, from challenging conventional wisdom, and from never being afraid to try something new. Tintype's enthusiasm was contagious, and he encouraged Svetlana to experiment, to fail, and to learn from her mistakes. Davina's Dreamscapes. In this chapter, we delve into how Davina taught Svetlana to wield the power of her dreams and turn it into a formidable force. Through mystical teachings and serene dreamscapes, Svetlana learns to harness her inner strength and transform her dreams into reality. Davina, the ethereal dreamweaver of the SkyClan, took Svetlana under her wing, guiding her through the labyrinth of her own subconscious. In the quiet of the night, under the shimmering light of 1,000 stars, Davina led Svetlana into the realm of dreams, a place where reality and fantasy intertwined. Dreams are not just figments of our imagination, Davina whispered, her voice like a soothing melody. They are the blueprints of our soul, the untapped reservoirs of our true potential. Together, they navigated through the dreamscapes, each one more vivid and enchanting than the last. Svetlana marveled at the surreal beauty of these realms, where the laws of physics were mere suggestions and the boundaries of reality were blurred. Here, Davina continued, you can shape your destiny, mold your fears into strengths, and transform your deepest desires into reality. The power of dreams is boundless, and with it you can achieve anything. Svetlana practiced tirelessly, learning to control her dreams, to bend them to her will. She conjured visions of powerful dragons, towering mountains, and endless skies, each one a testament to her growing prowess. Remember, Svetlana, Davina advised, the key to mastering your dreams is believing in yourself. Trust in your abilities, and the dreamscapes will become your greatest ally. With each passing night, Svetlana's confidence grew. She began to see the dreamscapes not just as a refuge, but as a training ground, a place where she could hone her skills and prepare for the challenges ahead. In the tranquility of Davina's dreamscapes, Svetlana found a new source of strength, a wellspring of power that she could draw upon in times of need. She emerged from her dreams, not just as a warrior, but as a visionary, ready to shape her own destiny and the fate of the SkyClan. Delmira, the leader of the SkyClan, helped Svetlana understand her place in the world. Delmira had lived for centuries, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, the ebb and flow of magic. She taught Svetlana the ancient arts of meditation, dream-walking, and astral projection. True strength comes from balance, from embracing both the light and the darkness within oneself. Svetlana was no longer the goddess of destruction. She was now Svetlana, the dragon with a heart of gold, and she had the power to choose her own destiny. Svetlana embraced her new identity, ready to forge her own path and shape her own future. A shadow fell over the SkyClan's tranquil existence. The whispers of the wind carried a new tune, one of unease. Animals grew skittish, their instincts screaming of danger. Orchideus paced the training grounds, his roars echoing with nervous energy. I can feel it in the air, the magic. It's different now. There's tension, a fear that's not like anything we've faced before. News came on the wings of a raven. The God King, Toman, was on the move. He sought to consolidate his power, to bend every creature and every corner of their world to his will. The God King's edict spread like wildfire across the land. All who wielded magic were to pledge fealty or be deemed enemies of the throne. The SkyClan stood in defiance, built on principles of balance and harmony. Panic spread among lesser covens, many swore allegiance. The SkyClan refused to cower, ready to face the wrath of a god. They knew the risks, the potential cost of defiance. But they also knew the price of their freedom was eternal vigilance, and they would not yield. A sense of urgency gripped the SkyClan. Delmira rallied her coven, ready to fight for their freedom. Under Orchidea's watchful eye, I honed my dragon fire, learning to control its destructive potential with terrifying precision. Sapphire's melodies now crackled with the energy of battle, weaving enchantments to bolster defenses. Tintype churned out enchanted shields, potent elixirs, and a modified flying machine that could rain down a storm of enchanted arrows. As preparations reached fever pitch, a seed of doubt was sown. Delmira revealed a prophecy about a dragon who would decide the fate of the world. Delmira feared Svetlana was this prophesied dragon. The prophecy mirrored Svetlana's internal struggle. The duality of her nature terrified her. Doubt gnawed at Svetlana. She sought solace in the skies, feeling adrift between prophecy and purpose. Was she a weapon of destruction or a beacon of hope? The answer lay in her heart. She would fight for her friends, for freedom. With a roar, she embraced her power, her fear transforming into determination. She was a dragon, but also Svetlana. She would fight for what she believed in. The fate of the world rested not on prophecy, but on choice, and she had made hers. The day of the battle dawned like a wound in the sky. The SkyClan gathered, a small but resolute force against the encroaching darkness. We were outnumbered, outmatched, but our spirits burned with fierce intensity. Svetlana stood at the forefront, a beacon of defiance. Beside her stood Orchidea and Sapphire, their resolve unwavering.
Today, we fight for our right to exist. Today, we show the God King that our spirits cannot be broken.
The God King's forces surged forward like a tidal wave of darkness. The first assault fell upon the SkyClan's defenses like a thunderclap. Tintype unleashed a barrage of enchanted arrows, sowing chaos among the enemy ranks. Sapphire's music transformed into a weaponized concerto, amplifying the enemy's fear and doubt. Orchidea, a whirlwind of fire and fury, met the charge head-on. His roars shook the very foundations of the world, a primal challenge to the God King's tyranny. As the God King stood on the precipice of his grand plan, a shadow emerged from the depths. Svetlana's father returned to his side, bringing with him a power that could tip the scales of fate. The air crackled with tension as old alliances were rekindled, and new threats loomed on the horizon. The stage was set for an epic confrontation, one that would determine the fate of all realms. The battle with Terras was fierce and unrelenting. Svetlana and her allies fought valiantly against the mighty dragon, their determination unwavering. The sky was filled with the roar of dragons and the clash of steel. Terras, with his immense power, seemed invincible, but Svetlana's resolve and the unity of her companions turned the tide. In a final, desperate move, Svetlana unleashed a powerful spell, striking Terras down and securing a hard-fought victory. The battlefield fell silent, and the heroes stood victorious, their spirits unbroken. The enemy kept coming, wave after wave of relentless darkness. With a roar, I launched myself into the fray. She became a whirlwind of purple and green, her scales shimmering under the crimson sun. She breathed fire, torrents of emerald flames incinerating anything in their path. I targeted my attacks with precision, aiming to disable rather than destroy. I was a dragon, but also Svetlana, and I would not be defined by destruction alone. The battle raged, a chaotic dance of magic and might. The God King, Toman, watched with cold, calculating eyes. He had anticipated the SkyClan's resistance, believing it would solidify his power. But as he watched Svetlana fight, he realized he had underestimated her. A slow, cruel smile spread across his lips. This, he realized, would make the victory all the sweeter. With a gesture, he unleashed a wave of raw power, scattering friend and foe alike. The God King, his eyes locked on Svetlana, was preparing to reveal the true extent of his might. The battle had just begun. The God King's power slammed into Svetlana with the force of a collapsing star. But within the heart of the maelstrom, I felt something unexpected, not pain, but potential. She embraced the energy, weaving it with her own power. Her scales blazed with an otherworldly light, reflecting the God King's power back at its source. A low growl rumbled in my chest, growing louder until it erupted into a deafening roar. The world held its breath, the outcome hanging in the balance. As the light of dawn broke through the clouds, the world seemed to hold its breath. Svetlana stood at the edge of the cliff, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. The battle had been fierce, but now a new day was upon them. The symphony of light had triumphed, and with it a new era of peace and prosperity began. The dragons, once feared and misunderstood, were now the guardians of this new world. And Svetlana, with her unwavering resolve, had led them to this moment. The trials and tribulations were behind them, and a new age of freedom had dawned. The God King, his initial surprise giving way to fury, lashed out again. Tendrils of shadow magic, fueled by his rage and frustration, snaked towards Svetlana, seeking to crush the light, to extinguish the beacon of hope she had become. Orchidea, his molten scales already scarred and cracked from the battle, saw the attack coming. Without hesitation, he threw himself in front of Svetlana, taking the full brunt of the God King's fury. The impact sent him crashing to the ground, a plume of steam and ash marking his sacrifice. "Orchidea!" Svetlana cried out, her voice laced with grief and rage. The God King's attack, though devastating, had also weakened him, exposed a vulnerability in his defenses. Seizing the opportunity, Tintype, his face grim beneath his fox-like features, activated his final invention. It was a device of immense power, a conduit that could channel the combined magical energy of the SkyClan into a single, focused blast. He had hesitated to use it, knowing the risks, the potential consequences. But with Orchidea down, with the fate of their world hanging precariously in the balance, he knew he had no choice. The blast from Tintype's device struck the God King with the force of 1,000 thunderbolts. The very air shattered, the earth buckled, and the battlefield was consumed in a blinding white light. When the dust settled, the God King was gone. Only silence remained, a heavy, echoing silence that stretched across the ravaged landscape. The SkyClan, battered but unbroken, emerged from the wreckage. They had won, at a cost. Orchidea, gravely wounded, lay still. Svetlana, her own scales dimmed but her spirit bright, nuzzled Orchidea's side. As the first rays of a true dawn touched the horizon, the SkyClan gathered around their fallen comrade. They had faced a god and emerged victorious. They had fought for their freedom, and they had won. But the fight, they knew, would continue. For as long as there was magic in the world, there would be those who sought to control it. But the SkyClan, bound together by their shared experience, would stand ready to face whatever challenges the future held. They had tasted freedom, and they would never again surrender it. The sun rose higher, a promise of a new day, a new era. The age of the God King was over. The age of the SkyClan had just begun. The battlefield lay quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos that had reigned just hours before. Svetlana stood amidst the ruins, her heart heavy with the loss of Orchidea. Orchidea, your sacrifice will not be in vain. Today, we have won, and a new age of freedom dawns for the SkyClan Coven. The SkyClan members gathered around, their faces a mix of sorrow and determination. They knew the cost of their victory, and they honored the fallen with silent vows of remembrance and resolve. As the sun continued to rise, casting a golden hue over the shattered landscape, Svetlana raised her head, her eyes filled with a newfound strength. "We will rebuild," she declared, her voice steady and resolute. "We will honor those who have fallen by creating a world where freedom reigns and no one is oppressed by the tyranny of power." The SkyClan, united in their grief and their hope, began to move forward. They started to clear the debris, to tend to the wounded, and to plan for the future. Each action, each step they took, was a testament to their resilience and their unbreakable spirit. In the distance, the first signs of life began to return. Birds sang a tentative melody, and the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the promise of renewal. The SkyClan, though battered and bruised, stood tall. They had faced unimaginable odds and emerged victorious. Now they would build a world worthy of their sacrifices. The age of their God King was over. A new age of freedom, hope, and unity had begun, and the SkyClan, forged in the crucible of battle, would lead the way.